In this video, we strive to remain spoiler-free, discussing only story and plot elements from the books relevant to what has occurred already on the show.
Hi, I'm Max.
Hey, I'm Jen.
Hi, I'm Sara.
And I'm the Geeky Hippie. Welcome back to What the Adaptation, the YouTube show that reviews adaptations from one form to another. This week, we are continuing Season 3 of The Wheel of Time, the show that started this channel. We're on 305, Tel'aran'rhiod. Max, what can you tell us about this episode?
Oh, man, I don't even have that screen open right now.
What?
Oh, I had a lot of other stuff going on. Give me 1 second here.
Sure.
Yeah.
You know, I was thinking during the intro, during the countdown, we tend to start as close to on time as we possibly can. We're never 7 minutes late consistently, like some other streams that I watch or have watched in the past. We're at the most, I think we've been late 15 minutes once, but usually we start right on time. And it was just that occurred to me. I'm like, I'm not used to Wheel of Time streams that start on time. And right now we are a Wheel of Time stream. So
Don't jinx us. Don't jinx us. We're doing so well. You know?
right.
Let's see if I can do this. Yeah, we have the
Hey,
Marta Cunningham is the director of this
Marta
season.
Cunningham?
If you can see the screen or not.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, she directed Wheel of Time, Girls in the Bus, Genius, a few other shows as you see here. Star Trek Discovery, 1 episode.
I'm sorry for her.
And then Ejoke Ibronki, I'm probably butchering her name, was the writer for this episode.
Oh.
And let's see here. Looks like she is the primarily story editor for this season, so this is the 1 episode she wrote.
Interesting.
And as we see here, previous writing credits include something called Doctor Who Redacted, a podcast series. Good
Hey,
Girls Guide to
Viking.
Murder.
See you, bro.
Yeah. And I was not able to get my slides to attach to this, so I'll have to share screens for that.
It's okay.
Okay.
Yep.
So, what did everybody think of this episode? I know it was no episode 4, but how do you feel on this one?
There were highs and lows, definitely. There were like it finished on a very strong note, is what I'll say. It finished for me on a strong note, and I'll leave it there. You can discuss later, and I'll let somebody else
Hey, Rosa.
finish.
I like fun.
Yeah.
Sarah.
I was having fun the whole episode. I like heavy stuff. I like light stuff. I like fast stuff. I like action stuff. I like slow stuff. So I'm easy to please.
Mhm.
I liked it. I enjoyed it. Was it a perfect adaptation of the books? No. Name of the show, want the adaptation. So right up front,
Right.
was it a truly faithful adaptation? No, but that didn't take away from the enjoyment from me.
Mm.
I have to agree. There were things I didn't like, but it wasn't that the things I didn't like, I didn't dislike because they were changes. It's just what I didn't like, you know. And we'll get to that when we get to a scene, because there's a scene and 2 actors that I think should get the worst actor of the episode award, but I'm not going to do that to them. But you'll know when we talk about the scene. But
Okay.
yeah, I overall liked the episode. You know, changes included. You know, some of the stuff I'm not sure I understand why they're doing, but you know, we'll see down
Okay.
the road. Supposedly, you know,
Okay.
if the show ends and all the changes don't make sense, I got words with a few people out there.
Uh-oh. Them's fighting words.
They keep telling me the changes will make sense if we get the end of the show and see what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
And I hope they're right. You know, I want to see that. Max, what do you think of this episode?
Overall, I'd say I enjoyed it. Particularly like the end of the episode was just fantastic, I thought.
Yeah.
I actually laughed out loud. I'm sorry. That might make me a bad person, but when she saw him kissing Lanfear, I just started laughing.
No, this make you a bad person. It was kind
All
of
right.
funny.
Well, I'll
Good.
get to that when we get to that area part of the scene because there is a lot of manipulation going on there.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
That had to happen eventually, though, because otherwise, Rand is not available for any other takers out there. Any
Mm-hmm.
other people interested in him. As long as he's tied down to Egwene, which he's been for 3 seasons now, almost 3 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they need to break the two of them up at some point. And I think this is going to do it finally.
For all of the people that like the two of them together who are probably show only watchers, I'm just beyond ready for that to be done. And I think that this is I hope that this is finally what breaks it for good and sets Egwene on her own path. I think that we've seen a scene that I think is probably going to be in the next episode. It was in one of the trailers. And I think that it's a reaction to what just happened. And I am just really looking forward to the fallout from this week's episode for that relationship, because it's time. You got to cut the cord at some point. It's time.
Agreed.
I'm purposely not watching promos for the next episodes and staying away from social media on any hype for future episodes.
Interesting.
Just so I don't get, let's say, my elevated for how much to expect. Because if I expect rock bottom, it's better. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
If I expect too much, then it's never going to meet those expectations.
So it's like Varen says, make like all the, what she said, and like all your surprises will be pleasant ones. I can't think of exactly how she said it, but you guys know what I'm trying to say.
Yep.
Yeah.
I've applied that to like video games for a long time, because if you overhype yourself, it's never going to meet expectations.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Although I have to say BG3 did. BG3 did meet my expectations, but
me too. That's a whole other subject.
No, I was going to say, one thing I'm concerned about with having this breakup happen, and the fact that it's going to happen, how antagonistic are they going to be with each other down the road when? Well, I'll just say it. Spoilers, as I said.
Are we already doing this?
Like when Egwene's the Amerlin seat and Rand and her meet, how antagonistic are they going to be?
Remember,
because she's going to be pissed as fucking hell at him.
Well, book spoilers. She closes off North Harbor, so
yeah. Yeah. I think because of the structural integrity of the Edmondsfield Five needs to hold fast because they're the glue. They may have a spin out, but I don't know if Ta'veren or whatever else will work its magic. They'll come back together. They kind of have to. Like they're the cheese that holds all the ravioli together. It's the structural integrity of the dish, I don't know. You know what I'm trying to say.
If this was the books, this is the part where I would be saying that the Ta'veren-ness of Rand would be the plot armor they needed to guarantee that everybody gets over it and finds a way to work with each other.
Yeah.
But
the MacGuffin.
But the show hasn't really leaned into that.
True.
So it makes it tough for that to be the solution.
Agreed.
So
that's true.
I think it might be like all of the constant concussions. You just accept that they get over them really quick. So, yeah, you were smooching a Forsaken, and I caught you cheating on me with a Forsaken. It's like, oh, that was yesterday's wound. It's already healed because we've moved on to the next episode.
It was in his dream. Is that really cheating?
What would you have done?
Well, according to someone that I have been in a relationship with who had a dream of me cheating on them with someone in Pennsylvania, it very much counts if you go by what they say. We laugh about it now, but there was a kerfuffle for a few days in the moment because of something that I did in a dream. So
interesting.
Yeah, I would say it counts.
This is a very common relationship thing, yes.
At least it's if she holds what he dreamt of against him, it's what he dreamt of in his dream. I actually had somebody hold something against me that they dreamed I did in their dream. They dreamed me
Next
in their
level.
dream, I did something or said something, and they never told me what. But they were mad at me for a week for something they dreamt I did, and I'm just like,
Yeah. Like I said, this is a very common thing that happens in reality.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if Rand holds it against her, because what's she gonna say? Well, while I was spying on you in your dream, and then what's
stalking
his
me.
reaction to that? He's like, wait a minute, how do you know about this? You were in my dreams doing
Yeah.
what? So
Yeah.
that'll be an interesting conversation when it does in fact happen, if it does in fact happen, because you know that communication is the number one thing for our characters in this show.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
right.
We all need to have an ethics lesson.
Boundaries.
Yeah.
So while we're talking about dreams,
Mm.
and Egwin's little trip through people's dreams, I guess we're going to work backwards through the show.
That works.
Hopper was there in Perrin's dream. I kept expecting Perrin to turn to Egwin and say something, or for there to be some nod that Perrin's wasn't having a normal dream.
Oh, yeah.
But that, of course, didn't happen. But we did get Hopper, and
I was getting
Mm.
Hopper.
I love that
And
Hopper.
then Perrin had to tell Hopper to stay down. I'm like,
There you
why
go.
are you telling Hopper to stay down? That's what Hopper does is hop.
Yeah. And I love that in the vision where Hopper gave Perrin his name,
Mhm.
that that the vision of Hopper was chasing Sparks, and it was the exact same thing in this episode. So for it to so closely mirror how Hopper
Yeah.
gave Perrin his name, really hit me in the feels. Really hit me in the feels.
Mhm.
And of course, that's, adaptation note wasn't anywhere in the books, but yet somehow it's wormed its way into my heart, and it's just as much a part of the Wheel of Time now as anything in the books that Hopper
Eggy
chased
goes into
Sparks.
Perrin's dream at one point, doesn't she? Doesn't she do something like this and see bits and pieces of Perrin's life or something? I seem to remember.
I vaguely remember something like that, but I don't push me too hard in the details.
Yeah. Anybody else think it was a little fast for Perrin to be having like familial dreams about Fail?
Fail, I thought it was slightly fast. I accepted it because of my bias, which I will admit my book bias is coming out. But for a show viewer, I would try to put myself in that shoes. Yeah, Witcher's Lady says, yes, we get Fail in an apron. Yeah, because I didn't see her performing that task either. I agree, Witcher's Lady. That's true. But yeah, I was like, wait a minute. This is my bias coming through. Would I be a little bit surprised as a show viewer? And I have to acknowledge that I probably would. Yeah, I'd be like, what is going on here? So yeah.
Yeah, I'm not as worried as much about the speed of it, because in the dream, I almost felt like Layla and Fail were kind of merging, because the forge is kind of Layla's domain. We never really saw her outside of the forge.
True.
In that first episode. It was only in the forge. And so for Perrin's subconscious brain to be conflating his feelings for his dead wife and this woman that he's starting to feel a growing attraction to, and kind of mush them together into one dream. I don't think that's him on a conscious level doing that. I think that's where his subconscious is doing, is that he's realizing that he's finding love. So I kind of liked that. It was a little heavy-handed for me, but I liked it. It was fun.
I was going to also mention that
I was wondering if it seemed that way.
I was also going to mention that she had also came there basically to his rescue after that point. Like
Mhm.
he had just got stabbed in the side, and she was there hovering over him, protecting him.
Yeah.
Mm.
So
I really liked the choreography of her fight, her
Yes.
fighting style.
Yes.
And,
Me too.
and there was one thing that they did that choreographers have been doing for a decade or more with female fighters,
Mhm.
but they did it different. And it's most you see it more in the example I can think of is the way Scarlet Witch fights in Iron Man 2. She does a
Mhm.
lot of jumping up, using her thighs, her legs to grab somebody here, and then throw them with their legs.
Mhm.
Fail does something like that, but instead of wrapping her legs around the guy's neck, she does it around his torso. She comes up and you
Mhm.
see his one elbow or one knee right up under his elbow, and she flips him that way. And I was like,
Mhm.
they're using the same move, but they're doing it in a way that's not so. Well, I mean, the problem is it's a very sexualized fighting maneuver when they
Mhm.
do it in most movies because it's always a hot chick with her crotch right in the guy's face, breaking his
Mhm.
neck. You know,
Mhm.
but
So
yeah, one of the
I
things I
want to go
like.
backwards for a second to the one screenshot that Max had up a minute ago. That was Fael reaching up with the knives. That was a very fun little
Good.
thing that
Second.
she had one knife, Perrin slaps it away, and then the
Yeah.
other knife comes back up, and then immediately Bien and Jad were like, she could come.
We're like, she come with
Yep.
us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
She's coming.
It
that
it
was
it reminded me just a little bit of Arya Stark fighting Brienne of Tarth, and she brings the knife down, and she goes, and Brienne's like, "Who showed you that?" She goes, "No one." Anyway, it's a Game of Thrones reference, but it kind of reminded me a little bit of Arya
Yeah.
Stark, a
Yeah.
little bit with Fael, what Fael did, but in a
So-
good way.
I also
Homage.
took a couple shots earlier of this just to show how tiny she is compared to Perrin.
Oh, very
Here-
tiny.
yeah,
Here she is
Yeah.
looking up at him.
Hmm.
good camera
I
work there.
didn't.
She's very petite.
Mhm.
But she whoever did the casting for her did an excellent job. That's our Fael for sure. That's our Fael. Yes.
Yeah, I'm happy with the Fael casting.
Me
I'm
too.
really happy with it. She is turning
Mhm.
out really good in the role.
Hmm.
Not
was
the
a-
person I'd fan cast, but I
Mhm.
didn't
I
was-
expect
I was-
everybody I fan cast to make.
There we go.
I was a little surprised no Lord Luke this episode.
Yeah.
I'm a little disappointed in that.
Yeah, there was no Lord Luke. It's a good
And
point.
see, actually, I thought for a second we got Lord Luke, but it was Jarrett Byer, Child Byer, because he kind of looks a little bit like the actor who played Lord Luke.
I
at
have a
first.
gripe.
I'm like,
I
ooh.
have a gripe with the episode. That shot lingered on him so long as it zoomed in to show him and his mustache looking into the distance after I can't think of his name.
Valda.
Valda had said, "Do you want to find out how to catch a witch?" Boy, that shot just lingered on him forever. I mean, Child Byer is great, but I don't know that I needed 3 or 4 full seconds of him for an establishing shot. I didn't even catch. I didn't even catch if he died at the end of that, because I'm not sure if he's one of the people that died in that fight or not.
Yeah, I couldn't tell.
But it was a lot of buildup. It was almost like they were putting him on a pedestal and being like, "Behold, we have a character from the books. Look at him."
Mm.
Right.
So
I was a little surprised at how quickly they found her. I thought they found Alana very, very easily.
Mm.
Yeah. So
I don't know, man. That would be kind of hard, especially to do it without her finding out you're coming. Noticing you're coming, especially when you're wearing armor.
Yeah.
That didn't look padded.
Here's one for you, Glenn.
I can't make out anything except for the speech bubble. All I see is a black square.
Exactly.
It's the text says, "It's over, Anakin. I have the high ground."
I can see
my
that
God.
much. Go for the ankles like a cat. Yeah, but whatever's in the picture itself, I can't make out.
Yeah, it's pretty dark. Basically, he's rolling on the ground and cutting the ankles. This is
Question-
where he gets stabbed, and I feel like this is a reference to sheathing a sword, because in the next scene he turns and then backhands the guy.
Question for you guys. Who was that channeling? Who was that channeling in the cage? Was it one of Matt's sisters?
Yes.
Yeah, it was definitely one or
Okay,
one
so
of them.
my
The
gripe
one on the
is
left. The
they're
one
too
furthest from my
young. They're
mom, I
just a
think.
little bit too young. I know the show viewers don't know that. But I was surprised. I was like, dang, they casted some pretty young girls to
Yeah.
channel right then. I was like, can they channel yet? But then again, what did I say earlier in this episode? That's my book bias coming out, because otherwise I would be like, I don't know. I wouldn't.
The
Well,
They were
metaphysics have
young.
been. The
Well, Jen, I
metaphysics have
expected
changed.
this. I expected this question, Jen. So
Mhm.
I had a similar kind of, she seems young,
Very young.
kind of reaction. But
Mm-hmm.
then as I was rewatching the episode in preparation for the show tonight,
Hmm.
I was rewatching the scene, and I'm going to butcher her name, even though Glenn and I went over this before the show. Shora?
Shorey.
I don't know.
Shorey. Shorey. So Shorey has that great scene with Suan at in the Amberlin study, and she says, "I remember when you first came as a 9-year-old girl to the tower," and we know from season 1 that she was channeling in Tyr, and that's why she went to the tower. So that means that as young as 9, Suan was able to channel. So books aside,
bias.
so it's established show canon that somebody as young as 9 can channel.
Yeah.
Okay.
There have been some not minor changes to the metaphysics on the show.
Yeah. Agreed.
Agreed. Quite a few of them actually. So what we know of the metaphysics from the books, we can't apply to how things work on the show, and that's been kind of rough to accept.
Yeah, normally I'm cool with it, but I was just like, oh my gosh, she's so tiny. Like, that's just me. I know that's a me thing, though.
Oh no, I don't think so at all. I remember watching season 1 and seeing how young the actresses were for Matt's sisters, and I was like, how are they going to explain that when the time comes? And even now that that the actresses are a little older, because the real time between seasons, which leads me to another question that I'll table for another day about another character in the books. So yeah, I've had concerns since season 1 how they were going to do that because of the age of Matt's sisters. So
in the books, though, I would just say that the Asadi say teenagers like 16, 17, but the Asadi believe they know everything. But they are wrong about a lot of things they believe they know for a fact.
Yes, and I are very wrong about things they think they know.
So even if they believe that you only start channeling at 16 or 17 in the books, that's not necessarily correct information. Just like they might, for instance, think that menstruation only happens when you're 16. That's not a fact.
Yeah, that is not a fact.
And girls can start that even as early as 9.
Yeah.
So
that's
true.
And
that can be tied.
I'm sure that there's a lot of variety, and I'm also sure that it's probably book and show related, also related to how much power the individual is able to use, what their potential is. I have a feeling, and I don't have any basis in fact for this, but it feels like the more power that you have, the earlier you may manifest signs. So
that seems
so this is probably how Egwene was selected to be apprentice. This is probably why Nynaeve was selected to be apprentice, because even if they're not seeing it, and even if it's not as dramatic as what happened in this episode, I'm sure that it's probably more common to have breakthrough events younger, especially with people who are more powerful. And we know that the Two Rivers has a lot of the old blood, where the tower hasn't been to try and find anybody to recruit anytime recently. So they haven't been depleting the gene pool of people that can channel.
I can't remember if I'm making this up or not, but wasn't there something with like welders and trauma too?
Wilders?
Yeah. Causing them to
like
channel.
it being like a trigger for them to start channeling earlier. That's true.
Maybe
yeah,
not
Just making it up, or is that a
trauma,
thing?
but
I
not so much
think that's
trauma, but danger, and it was a reaction to the danger. That's why they channeled.
Yeah.
Well, I do know
Not
that
so
from
much
the books.
trauma.
From the books, a lot of the people that are in the tower have tricks that they learned as children, and so they have these things that they can do that they learned from a much earlier age. Like Moraine has her trick with the jewels, her kissing,
little
with a listening in, and someone, I think it's Leandrin in the books, has a little bit of ability to get people to do what they want to do. So there's a few hints of that throughout the book series. The sting, yeah. But it's a trick that she learned at a young age. So I do think that there is basis in the books for certain things being able to be done young. And it wouldn't surprise me if trauma was right there with everything else.
Yeah, I can't remember if I'm misremembering with other, because all different fantasy series have that as like a basis for like what unlocks it. So I can't remember if I'm just conflating it or if that's also something that was in there.
That sounds right, but
yeah, that is one of the dangers of being well read, is that sometimes you mix up details from other series, especially when they're moving kind of side by side in other aspects. So
I'll be right back, guys. Hold on a minute. Go ahead and keep going without me.
Sure.
Yep. Let's see. I did have this picture from the beginning of the episode. Moraine giving us this wonderful face.
This whole opening. This was the opening scene for the episode, right? Yeah. I have mixed feelings. I love it and I hate it, and it's so much fun for a show perspective, but it fills me with so much angst as a book reader. The patterns in the sand that you just saw, those were beautiful. Just from
I thought the patterns were
cinematography point of view.
gorgeous.
Yeah.
Look at that stunning shot, Max. Great job.
Yeah.
It only took him about 10 minutes to get that damn pause.
That's I know. That's why I said great job, because that's a perfect shot right there.
Yeah.
So Glenn can see.
That was a good shot. That is a good shot.
So I get how much can we talk about from the books?
Go for it.
Go for it.
So
I think it's funny she's playing with her one remaining magical Benoit ball.
Yeah, I missed the Choden call. I think that not having them is creating problems for later in the book series. I'm thinking particularly, and I'm only going to reference it by the famous name so that people that are book readers are going to know, and people that aren't book readers aren't going to have any clue. It's from Veins of Gold. When a certain character has a decision to make, and to do that, there's a certain item of power that they need to relinquish. How does that moment happen without a Choden call in the equation? Because there's multiple Cyangreal and Ter'aran'rhiod of power. I just don't know how they make that work from an adaptation. I have a feeling that the decision was made with this season only in mind, and their whole, either there's a bigger plan to do it, or this was just an in the moment, we'll patch it later. Because I've gotten the feel watching the first 3 seasons that there's a little bit of both at play. I think that there's some master outline that they are working from to do, but a lot of the details that are getting filled in, it's just like, let's make this work now and we'll worry about the rest of it later. As long as we're sticking to the blueprint, these smaller details don't matter as much. So, and I think this is one that could end up biting them.
If I'm not
Mhm.
mistaken, isn't the Sarkonin in the books like trapped by Demandrin? Was it?
It is. It's
Something like
the
that. Yeah,
It's the Sharan one.
Yeah.
yeah, it's a male sangreal too.
Yep.
Saidin.
And because it's like linked to him genetically, basically, is what they said.
Yeah.
And we see this. I'm like, could that still be a factor?
Mm,
Well, my
I
thought
don't
on
think
that.
I don't think Demandrid or Shara is gonna play a part. in
No,
the
I'm
show
talking
at
about
all.
being linked to someone,
Oh,
being a female channeler, and we know of at least
a little
one.
like the horn you're saying, Max.
Something like that. Because
Yeah.
if you use it and you're not linked to it, it's supposed to kill you.
yeah.
Mm. Yeah, I have a feeling all of that is just either gone or changed radically. So I wouldn't expect that it has anything except the name in common with the book.
Yeah, it's
Hard
hard
Yeah,
to say.
I'm glad that you brought that up because I also had some misgivings on that as well. So yeah. I was wondering. I was like, yeah, me too.
Not that I didn't like it. I don't want to make
No,
it
I
sound
did too.
I just thought, especially with how
Mhm.
difficult it was. Clearly, Moraine is in the tower one of the more skilled users of the one power.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
for her to have difficulty wielding it,
Mhm.
I think sets the stake really high for later seasons. I like that. I like that she's setting this that the show is setting the stakes high for that
Mhm.
particular device for the later seasons.
Mhm.
But the fact that there isn't I just have reservations. It's not the
I
way
hear
I
you.
would have done it, but I'm not in charge of the show. I'm just a
Mhm.
viewer who gets to go along for the ride and either enjoy it or not enjoy it. And I'm loving it. I'm enjoying the ride. I thought it
Mhm.
was I thought it was a fun scene. But the technician in me, the writer brain, which I always have
Mhm.
troubles shutting off my writer
Separating
brain.
that. Yeah,
Yeah,
me
yeah,
too.
I'm sure, Jen. So yeah, my writer brain was like, no, how are they going to
Mhm.
fix this and that? And so I had to just
Mhm.
let all that go in the moment and just enjoy the episode. And it was a great scene. And I think that Rosamund is a brilliant actress, and she really sold that because that in a world of green screens, we take for granted what actors and actresses are able to do with nothing there except their own imagination. She really
Mhm.
sold that. She really made it believable with her physical acting. It was a good piece of the craft of acting right there.
Mhm.
I kind of look at like next season if they go to the Stone of Tyr. That's supposed to be a repository of Angreal, Sangreal. Maybe they will find something.
Possible. Possible.
I hope we get to see something. Still confused about going to the waste before Tyr, but all right. It's not as bad as my. It's not the complaint that I have the biggest over this season. My biggest complaint about this season is where the hell Matt's at.
Yeah.
I still object to Matt being where he's at and with the people he's with.
Yeah,
And
I really wanted to see him get his Ashendari. I really hope he gets his hat. Like, if we don't get that in the next few episodes, I'll be kind of sad. Yeah.
With the
and he has to have good motivation to buy that
But
hat too.
but my thing is like Min still has her vision. So if he's not in Ruidian, how does that come to pass?
You saw in her vision he's hanging off the twisted doorway.
Yes, because Rafe
I didn't see
does
that
not
part.
understand the symbolism behind Matt and who and what Matt is. Matt is a representation of Odin, who hung himself from the tree of life, Yggdrasil, for 9 days to gain knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Matt, even down to the hat, the ravens, the spear, the ravens on his spear. Matt is Odin. And Rafe has gone, oh, yeah, well, fuck that. We don't need him to hang from Sora.
Yeah.
Sorry for my outburst.
We'll just
I appreciate you, Cliff.
From wherever, I don't like the way he's handling Matt, and yet I don't want to hear it again about what Barney did to Matt. They had all of season 2 to fix the problem with Matt that Barney gave them, and now they've backtracked and they're giving themselves more Matt problems. So this is no longer on Barney for leaving the show. This is no longer on COVID. This is entirely on the writing staff not understanding Matt.
Mm.
And I have a really bad feeling Matt and Min are going to end up in a ship on this show. A really bad feeling.
I know. I have the same. I've had the
Yeah,
same.
I
I brought that up a couple of episodes ago, and they're like, "No." I'm like, "Okay."
I will say it now.
felt it.
If they kiss and there's not a slap immediately after, I will stop watching the show.
Oh no, Glenn, those are strong words.
That is my line. Having a relationship, a romantic relationship between Matt and Min is the line that I've decided to draw.
I thought that. What episode was I on? I wasn't on last week. It was the one before that. And they were like, "No," and I was like, "Okay," but I still think that they'll end up together, but I don't want them to. But that's just, again, is that my book brain? Is that my book bias? Okay, here's what I will say about the Matt and Min.
Book bias is not a bad thing when it comes to talking about an adaptation.
Here's the thing. I will say this, and I know you may hate me for this, Glenn. That's okay. I agree with you. Pause. Next sentence. Coming blind into it as a show viewer, they act cute together. They act cute together. The scenes are funny. Their scenes are refreshing as a couple. Inside, I'm screaming. Inside, I'm on flames and my eyes are on fire. However, in the show, they do sell it quite well.
And that's why I'm afraid it's going to happen.
It sells very well in a good way. Like it's cute. It's sweet. It's aw, like, you know what I mean? So
yeah, I still don't see it happening.
Oliver's ears, I appreciate you.
I look at it this way. Men and women can be friends. Even if they are friendly together, they can still be friends. Just because they're friends doesn't mean they have to go romantic.
And if we're going
no interest in Matt that way.
And if we're going with the books, Min and Perrin actually spent the entire winter together in the mountains and became good friends in the books because they did spend the entire winter together, and it didn't turn romantic. Of course, that was after a different version of Fall May, and that was with Rand present, but Rand also not having a romantic relationship with Min. But we didn't get it with Perrin and Min becoming romantic there. I don't necessarily think that we'll get it with Min and Matt here. On an emotional level, Glenn, I am right there with you. It bothers me for the exact reasons that you stated. Because Robert Jordan, when I read Michael's book about that was a little bit of biography about Robert Jordan, James Oliver Rigney Jr., and was a little bit of the diving into some of the sources for some of the terms and some of the historical things. One of the things that I thought was very interesting were all of the connections to that one particular book that for the life of me, I can't remember. I wish I had that companion. It's not the companion book. It's his Michael's book. But it's a white book of myths and legends that RJ used as a great source of inspiration. So I think you're absolutely right. Odin is there. The ravens are part of that. The thing that happens to the injury that he takes later in the books, all of that plays into that. And to lose that in the adaptation is a blow. That's my gut speaking. My head says, though, that if you put Rand and Egwene and Moraine and Lan and Aviendha and Matt all in the waste in a show, not in the books, in the show, it makes it tough to give the actor and the character played by the actor by Donal the justice and the screen time that they really deserve to advance their character. So I think that separating them is an understandable adaptation move, but it's still a blow. Oh, I still feel it. The fact that Moraine stuck all those knives in the ground, and I almost feel like RJ originated that move with Matt in the books, the pulling out of knife after knife after knife after knife after knife to put on the ground. But now,
Mhm.
in the intervening decades since that was written,
Mhm.
it's been used and reused by other people, probably that read the books and stole it as a bit. That now to have Matt do it would kind of feel
Oh,
cheapened,
gimmicky.
yeah, and gimmicky for that to me, Matt. So
Mm.
so I miss
When it
it,
comes
but I
to
get it.
something like that, when it comes to something, portraying a trope,
Oh.
I don't personally don't care how gimmicky it is. If the show that you're like, in this case, the Wheel of Time adaptation was the first or one of the early examples of that trope being given, it's just like when you go to do Shakespeare, you don't worry about the fact that it's all cliche now. All
Yeah.
Shakespeare is a cliche. You
Yeah.
don't worry yourself about that. You just go for it. So they should, you don't, oh, that's going to be cliche to do that. No, just go for it.
Yeah, but
You know?
that's true. What kind of Shakespeare production you want to put on? Because you can have a Shakespeare production of Romeo and Juliet that is absolutely historically accurate, from the costuming to how they play it to the theater choice, all of that, and you can be very authentic. And then you could get something like West Side Story, which is basically a retelling of Romeo and Juliet, and you can get some of these. I think that there's one with Leonardo DiCaprio.
And
Romeo plus
parroting-
Juliet.
Yeah,
Okay, that's sacred to me.
I've seen parts of it. I haven't seen the whole thing. I was actually quite impressed with what I saw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was actually going to mention that recently Hulu came out with one called Odessa, which is a
Hmm.
retelling of Orpheus.
yes.
And it has horrible reviews, and not a single one mentions anything about Greek mythology.
Oh yeah.
No one apparently caught it.
Wow.
Hmm.
Yeah, I remember the controversy around that, about whether or not it was a smart idea to try and do that. And I think that they managed to alienate both the people that liked and knew that it was from the original material, which was a much smaller percentage of the audience, and then the
Mhm.
audience at large just ended up not liking. So it was like a double fail
For Romeo and
Mm.
from
Juliet.
everything that I've heard. Yeah.
Let's see, there was was that movie fuck. It's a retelling of another Greek story.
Oh, brother, where art thou?
Yeah, that's the one. That's what I was saying. I was
Is
trying to
the
remember his name.
Odyssey.
Yeah.
It's the Odyssey.
A lot of people missed that as well.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
it's
that-
obvious. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
it's way more obvious than the Wheel of Time's adaptation. It's just as obvious as the stuff from the Wheel of Time.
But if you play it today, for people who haven't seen it, they're going to completely miss it, and it might not
Unless
be
they
relevant
know
to
the
them.
Odyssey. Unless they know the Odyssey. If you know the Odyssey, I don't see how you could miss it.
You'd be surprised.
Yeah. So I think this is the problem that the show gets into constantly, and I think it's good trouble to be in, is that you've got so much material in the shows that you could do an adaptation that's just the original with stuff carved out of it. Kind of like if you had made, a 14 season show that had 20 episodes per season, and you had to edit it down to 8 seasons of 8 shows each of an hour each. So you could do that show, but I'm not sure how well it would flow. For that to work, you'd have to
Mhm.
really cut a lot. You'd have to cut right to the bone in some spots to
Right.
cut that down.
Mhm.
So I think that
It's-
the writers and Rafe and the people that are writing and running the show have made a choice, and I don't know if it's a good choice. I don't know if it's a bad choice, but it's a choice, and at the end of the day, you have to make a choice and run with it. That
Yeah.
they're trying to thread the needle between staying true to the books, but also trying to stay relevant and interesting in a new, original way, and that's a tough thing to do.
That is tough.
I think the story of the books alone would do that. That's why we all love these books so much. I don't see the need to drop as much as they have. I mean, yes, they have to drop a lot to fit 14 books into 64 episodes. But they've added stuff out of whole cloth and made up stuff to add in when they could have kept stuff from the books in that tells just the same stuff, and there's just, if you have this much material to work with and you have to pare it down to this small of a space, you don't make your own stuff up and throw it in. Okay. That's where my issues with Rafe come from, and that's why I don't have much faith in Rafe's ability to do this show any better than they've done. This is about the best I expect Rafe to do.
Let me put it this way. When you cut out stuff to make it fit on screen, you then have to make it into a coherent story and coherent words and plot.
Yes. And you don't have to do that by making up stuff to add in, causing more ripple effects. Then you have to react to the ripple effects you've caused, because that's changing things down the road. And those reactions you make to ripple effects,
it is also inevitable. We saw this even in Expanse, where they have to rearrange events.
They kept stuff under control. It was still 90% of the book was there. We're getting 20 to 30% of the books right now, and then the rest of it is Rafe's story. 20% of what we get on the show, maybe not this season, but season 1 and 2, it sure felt like 20% of it was from the book, and the rest was Rafe's made-up story.
I don't know about that, because like even in Expanse, there was a lot of extra added drama that had nothing to do with the books.
There was.
And that was added story by the writers,
but not to this level, not to this
debatable.
Well, so here's what I'll say to that. We don't know if it's Rafe, or we don't know if it's people up higher than him. We don't know exactly where this is coming from, because I think there's one thing everyone agrees, show watcher and book watchers can all come together and agree on. I haven't met or heard of one person that actually likes the Layla edition. And we know that wasn't a Rafe decision. We know, because Sanderson's talked about it and Rafe has talked about it, that was from people higher up. And they made that change, and they actually argued with them that they didn't want that, but they were overruled. So we don't know. That's the only thing we know. We don't know anything past that. We don't know anything about this new season. Mm-hmm. So it could be Rafe. It could be people higher up. We don't know. I agree with the sentiment that's going on. There's some also storylines that I'm seeing carried out this season that I'm like, okay, like, it's cool. I like the storyline, but we can just like calm down on it a little bit. But we don't know exactly where that's coming from. We don't know if it's Rafe. We don't know if it's people higher up making stupid decisions. So we don't really know where that's coming from.
Well, I'll always reference the what the hell's his name? Brain dead today. The guy that made the Clerks movies.
Kevin Smith.
Kevin Smith. I'll always reference his talking about producers and making that Superman movie that ended up turning into Wild Wild West.
Oh,
yes.
That's a classic thing when it comes to producers and interference on scripts, and how they get their fingers into everything and in every aspect of the creative writing process.
Mm-hmm.
But I actually think that part of the reason this season has been as good as it is because after the first 2 seasons, which were, I think they were both written before the first season ever came out, I really do think that part of the reason this season is better is that they got more wiggle room to be truer to the books, not as true as I think any of us would hope that they would be, but I think that they've been able to be a lot truer to the books because Rafe got the clout that he needed through the show's unexpected success and performance metrics to get a little bit more say, probably not still full say. One of the things that really struck me for the round of interviews that have come out recently was that they wanted to be in the widescreen format that they've been shooting at since the first season. It took them to season 3 to finally get that aspect ratio that they wanted for the show. So I get what you're saying, Glenn. I really do, and I'm sympathetic. But
me too.
But I'm just I love the Wheel of Time so much. I'm just happy to have anything, and I think that we could have done a lot worse than what we're getting. I think we could do a lot better than what we're getting. And certainly this isn't the show I would have made if I was the showrunner. But I've never run a show in Hollywood. I was just thinking the other day that if you think about it, this is the first show that Rafe has run. So there is, to a certain extent, a learning curve that he had to have over the first couple of seasons to get where he is now as a showrunner. And I think from here on out, those dividends just keep paying forward in a big way. So I'm hopeful that this season is the trend to I'm trying to think, there's a famous cliche about it, vision of the future, the way things are going to be moving going forward.
She fought very hard for things this season.
Sara Nakamura is the person I feel the worst for when it comes to the production of this show, because I feel like she must have been frustrated beyond all comprehension the last few years, you know, working with the writing staff. I feel like she's been ignored, and I think that if they're actually listening to her this season, then that's a good thing. So I'm really happy that they're actually listening.
It's a joke.
To her.
It's a joke in the community now about the whole Bear Brothers thing. But the
I was
fact
literally
that
going
was
to mention
even on
that.
the table, the fact that it was even on the table is really scary.
Well, when you cast Marcus Rutherford as Perrin, and then you put Bear Brothers on there, like that's not a good look.
Yeah,
like it's just not. I mean, you have Wolf Brother, and you're like, we're going to take it away and make him a Bear Brother. That's just a horrible look.
I don't remember if it's Wheel of Time. I think it was the Wheel of Time. It could have been another show that was an adaptation.
I don't know nothing about this. Bear Brothers.
They make him a Bear Brother.
This is one of the stories that came out, Jen. Yeah,
before season 1 was released, they were considering scrapping the Wolf Brother idea and making them Bear Brothers instead.
And I think that the reason for that was Game of adaptation Thrones choice. Yes, exactly, Game of Thrones, because they're desperate to avoid redoing stuff that has been done before, and because of the whole wolf head banner for Game of Thrones, they didn't want to go with wolves. It's real
easy to fix that. You just do a massive, have people proxies on social media point out how Wheel of Time did this shit first. That George R. Martin literally copied stuff from Jordan on purpose.
Yeah.
And incorporated that into his stuff. That Martin is the copycat here, not Wheel of Time. And that's real easy to do with social media these days. You don't even have to have the official Twitter account do it. You just ask people, influencers, to do it, and it will get done.
I put your scene here for you, Glenn.
I just
the wolf scene, the wolf heads on him.
Oh, that really upset me. I made a joke a while ago that Hopper was best as a rug, but that was just a bad joke. Seeing wolves like this, that disturbed me. That I would be disturbed by a wolfskin rug, to be honest. It was just a joke.
Not to be too overly analytical here, but at least a rug is useful. A wolfskin rug is useful. Just cutting off the heads and putting them on spikes to say, hey, we killed a wolf. That's very wasteful and not at all
Wrong.
Yeah, it's
Not humane.
yeah. So, well, yeah, definitely not humane to decapitate wolves and put their heads on spikes. I think we can agree on that. But
So there's
yeah,
about 10,000 ale here, right?
yeah,
10,002.
Yeah. And I took some of these shots here to kind of show us some of the more of what the ale actually looked like.
Mm.
And we kind of got a lot of people that kind of resemble Rand, especially like up in this area here.
Mm-hmm.
We got more that look like Avenda up here.
Mm-hmm.
We got Rourke scene there.
I still say that's Druid Halson.
Put this
That is
picture here
so
because
Halston.
I put this
Thank
picture
you.
here because there is some controversy about the sister wives kissing.
No.
What's the controversy?
People are
yeah.
mad about
Like, what is it?
Some people are mad about it.
Exactly.
Who's mad? That's like one of the most book accurate things in there. Is
I know,
that
it's bad.
Some people are mad that the sister wives are kissing because they're supposed to be sisters.
What?
That's first sisters. That's
Yeah.
first sisters that are
Yeah.
more, at least book-wise, that are more siblings. Sister wives are wives.
Yeah.
I fully agree with Matt, with Matt Stagger, with Bill, by the way. That's the girl Rand's going to try to keep alive, bring back to life.
so
Oh.
Bill suggested it, and I think that's going to happen this season or
I-
early
Okay.
next season.
I am of mixed feelings because I agree that would be a phenomenal include. Wish we could push it off one more season for actually in tier.
In tier, thank you. Yes.
And then
But,
have it be a Tyrion kid.
But
yeah.
But yeah, if they're going to do it, that's a cute kid.
So
It's
I got the scene for Glenn wants to talk about here.
Oh, yeah. I just wanted to point out that piece there. I saw that and I realized she's with the Stargate program.
I appreciate you, Glenn. I appreciate you so much.
I couldn't help it. I saw that. It jumped out at me. I'm like, wait, did I just see what I thought I saw? So
I've been trying to figure out why that signal has been tickling something in my brain, and you just cracked the case. It's Stargate. It is.
Yeah, totally Stargate. One event I think is going to happen at the end of this season is it's not going to be who's Avienda because that just doesn't apply to the story yet. But the whole tackle through the stone doorway. If there's a stone doorway in Ruidian, that's the end of this episode. This season is when Moiraine and Lanfear are going to go bye-bye. I seriously, you can't do it at the end. You can't do it at the middle of a season. That just doesn't work well. That's got to be an end of the season thing. And I think end of season 4 is too far away.
Here's a thought that I've seen floated. What if this is not what we get in the books and we get Moiraine skinned and dead?
Yeah, I've seen that floated as well.
Interesting.
I've seen that floated.
I don't know.
Moiraine is important.
Like actual dead. Yeah, I've seen that as well.
The one I think should be made dead is Morghese.
Yeah.
And it should look like Rand kills her because it's Ravine disguising himself as Rand, killing Morghese in front of people. That's a big change that I would like to see happen, and it would reduce the amount of story they have to tell significantly.
I have made a lot of predictions about the show, almost all of which have been wrong. So I'm going to make another prediction here that it's going to probably be wrong. But here's my prediction, is that Ravine is going to survive this season. Next season, we're going to have a battle outside the Stone of Terror that's going to combine, because the show is big on combining duplicate stuff from season so that we don't have the same beats over and over again. So I think that we're going to have the fall of the Stone of Tyr and the Shido attack on Kerhane. I think Kerhane and Tyr are going to be combined. It's going to happen at Tyr. We're going to have Matt come in, and we're going to start. I think we're getting fireworks this season by the end of the season. I hope.
Aludra
They need to get it in because it's important for the arc of the series as a whole. They've got to get it in. And I think that we get our first real use of fireworks next season during the fall of the Stone of Tyr. And that's not going to be the final episodes. I think the final episode is going to be in Camelin, and it's going to be the Rand Ravine showdown. I think that's the finale for next season.
And
would be my prediction if I was going to be. And it wouldn't surprise me if Morghese gets killed so that they don't have to bring her back in later seasons. Yes.
I have another prediction. It's a change, and it's questionable, but it kind of feels like this is what they're leading to. I don't think Alana's going to bond Rand. She's going to bond Perrin. And by bonding Perrin, she will, in essence, oust Barrelane from that, quote, triangle. It will be Perrin with Alana Faile butting heads over him.
That's interesting.
Now, that second part isn't... I'm not as sold on the second part, but I really do think Alana's going to bond Perrin. Whether or not she takes Barrelane's place... But it seems like that's what they're setting it up for.
That's interesting.
For somebody who doesn't like book changes, that's a pretty bold suggestion you're making.
I don't dislike changes. I dislike pointless changes, and I dislike stuff being added that's not the story. That's when I get upset, is when the showrunner or the writer or whoever that is adapting or whatever starts writing as if they think they know better than the original writer.
Yeah. So to speak to Matt, which we've talked about already, that you dislike that it's not happening at Avendesora, and that he's not in the Waste, which is a change that you very much definitely don't like. What do you think we're getting at the end of the season as far as Matt's? Because they have shown this Snakes and Foxes game. They showed the Redstone doorway in Thing. The thing that Shora has on her wrist has Snakes and Foxes on it. I did notice when we had that fun little interaction between Aleda and Varen's sister. I noticed on my rewatch, very interestingly, that Adeleas took Shore by the wrist and was admiring that bracelet. She was kind of fawning over, and Aleda was focused on her, and I think a lot of people are focused on that. But Adeleas noticed that bracelet, which I found very interesting.
She's not as gone up here as she seems to be.
I know.
I do not think she's nearly, because when Varen got up and went over and was talking with Lyanna and Swan, and Adeleas was sitting there drinking her tea, she was watching them intently. She was watching them with a lot of intelligence behind those, seemed to have a lot of intelligence behind those eyes. Like, she's playing everybody right now, I think. I think, and it's not malicious playing them. I think she's kind of enjoying being pampered a bit and being taken care of. I'm not saying she's completely lucid insane, but I think she's more lucid insane than the characters in the story are believing she is.
If a show change that I want is for it to be, it's been established that problems of the mind, just like in the books, problems of the mind are tough to heal. I would love for that to be Nynaeve's specialty. And I would love it if one of the first things she does is heals her. And that's one of her breakthrough moments in a later season, is that she heals her of that and brings her mind back. that would be a great thing, and then go on to do the other things that she does. But I think it establishes not only Nynaeve as a great healer, but as a healer of the mind, among other things. And it fits very well with her narrative arc from the books. I would like that. That's a show change that I would really like to see.
All right, and some interesting comments down here in chat. Winter's Lady agrees, she's 100% faking it.
These were
100%. Okay.
so like just before some of that scene happened, I put this here as like Sue-Ann had said, "Your smell enters the room before you do." Then she
Yeah.
follows up with this most sacred chamber in the most hallowed institution in the world, and you make it look like a fisherwoman's hut. So like, you know, she instigated it with the Rose's comment. Then, you know, Elida had to follow up with that. I put that little thought bubble there.
Right. I winced when she called her river trash. I was like, ouch.
Yeah, that was really
a
low.
line.
Like, so I didn't. Swan was too chill for me with all of that going on. I was like, Swan, like, we're just gonna be cool with this? Like, I don't know, like I was like, everybody's complaining. Well, not everybody. I shouldn't say everybody. Excuse me. Let me rephrase. I've seen a lot of complaints about how they toned down Swan for the show quite a bit, and I'm like, I don't know if that's necessarily true. Maybe. Yeah, that was a very toned down Swan response when she called her literally river trash, and her
Yeah.
Swan's like, "Is that all you have to say?" I'm like, "What? What? Like that would be penance time. That's penance time." Like, like I was like, minimum. Like that's because that's disrespectful. You don't have to be the Amaryl, whatever. We can just be cool and we can. But that's just straight like just horrifically bad. Like you can't do that and just hang out. Like you can't just hang out and sip your tea after doing that to somebody.
Egwene got away last week with "I've got my ring, you can't keep me here," and storming out like a little schoolgirl, pissed off that she didn't get her way. I don't like Egwene. I love Egwene in the books, but I do not like Egwene this season on the show. Egwene just really is rubbing me wrong. I feel towards Egwene the way I felt towards Nynaeve in the early books when I first started reading the books. If that makes any sense. You know, I that's how I feel about Egwene on the show, and I don't understand why. It's just something about her.
Huh.
Rubs me
I
wrong.
like that way in the show. Okay, I'm like, all right, that's cool.
My take on that was just a little bit different. I mean, I respect that you feel the way that you feel, and certainly that's your. I'm not trying to invalidate that at all.
Right.
My take on it was a little bit different. I thought that she set Suan up. She basically said, "I will return to the tower if you do this." And she did that knowing full well that once she succeeded, she was going to immediately leave again. So she got to have it both ways. She got to return the tower, be part of the tower, be able to come back, but still be able to leave like she wanted to. So in the grand scheme of things, it was a minor inconvenience. It felt very much like a Stones move. Yeah,
because in the books, accepted aren't allowed to leave. And speaking of the fact that she's an accepted, it doesn't so much. Well, it does apply with Egwene, but it would apply, I think, more with Nynaeve and Elaine, because they've got the accepted rings, but I'm pretty sure most people that know what an Aes Sedai ring is are also used to seeing them with the stone.
Yes,
and there's no stone in their rings. So do these people actually think they're full Aes Sedai, or do they realize these are only accepted because their ring shows that they're only accepted? Do you think people actually know the fact that no stone means it's an accepted?
I have to agree with that point, Glenn. And I'm disappointed that they didn't follow up on the seeds that they planted last season, where Nynaeve and Elaine were given 3 rings for 3 accepted: Elaine, Nynaeve, and Egwene. So the fact that they didn't follow up on that, I'm sure that they got returned to the tower and melted down in the melting pool of
Right.
sacredness, or whatever it is. So
This is a very, very minor complaint on
Yeah.
my behalf, by the way. But it's an example of not thinking through all of the changes somebody made. And it's not even a writing change, it's a change made by the design team,
Yeah.
you know,
Mhm.
the production designers, and the writers not taking into account the change the design crew made, you know.
Mhm. Mhm.
So
Yeah, and I'm sure.
it's the least lowest, the smallest complaint I've got about the show so far, probably.
Yeah.
But it's just one little thing that stuck out, and I'm like, that, yeah.
But most of the problems that I have with the adaptation, and again, I love the show. I'm having a grand old rip roaring time. Love it,
Mhm.
love it for what it is. I think that you have to do it the way it is for television. So I'm not a show hater by any means. But the writer, again, my writer brain is always kind of on. And anytime they make a change, it's like you're saying, Glenn, all I could see is the ripple effects down the line. If you do this one thing, like the change they did in the rings, what
Mhm.
happens to that when they have to go out in the world? What happens because they don't, uh, they don't identify which Aja you are in the books, but these ones
Mhm.
do identify which Aja you are. So if you are borrowing a ring that's a valid ring, what happens? Do we have to assume that the people in the world are ignorant and they don't know what an Aes Sedai ring looks like,
Mhm.
or they know what it looks like, but they don't know what the stones mean, which is kind of a big ask. So,
Mhm.
there's a bunch of things like that ripple throughout the show. I know that it was probably the easiest thing in the world to decide in season 2 not to have the Illuminators Guild, but gunpowder is important to the series as a whole. I'm going to say that again because it's important. Gunpowder is important to the series as a whole.
Yep.
And
Mhm.
if they don't find a way to incorporate it, they're either going to have to shove it in at the last minute or drop it altogether. And neither of those is a good option. So the fact that they've
And
waited so long, I mean, that's why I get excited when I see a party in Carahane and they have fireworks, or they're sailing into Tanchico and there's fireworks in the background.
Mhm.
If
I've got
they're-
one small reason why I'm afraid they might not give us fireworks, at least not in the way we get them in the book.
Mhm.
They purposefully renamed Maxim because the name of the character in the book was Owen, or however it's spelled, way too close, they say, to the name of Tom's nephew,
Mhm.
who the red gentle. So they had to change his name. So why in the world, if that's the case, would you then make a character whose name is almost identical to another character? You just put an N on the end. You have Eludra, and now we have Eludrun, who is Leandrin's son. Why would you give him that name if you know you're going to have Eludra in the next couple of seasons, when you've already got a record of changing names because they're too close? I
Mhm.
don't think I think because of that, I think they're not going to give us Eludra.
I would love to get my hands on the 8-season outline, because I would bet anything that before an episode even got written, that Rafe sat down when it was still he was the writing team, before there was a production team, and hashed out an outline, an 8-season, 8-episode per season outline for how the show is going to go. And I would love to know what the plan is for the final season, and I would love to believe that everything has happened is by design in service of that.
Mhm.
You know,
If
not
we
to
can.
interrupt, but we are about an hour in, and we've discussed maybe 10 minutes of this episode.
Sorry.
I just want to respond to Mitch here
I know.
real quick. Yes, Eludrin was barely there and forgetful, but so was Owen, Tom's nephew. Most of us forgot about Tom's nephew. Most viewers have forgotten about Tom's nephew, but his name was still too close to the Owen Warder, so they changed it. So even if it's only used once, it was enough for them to change with one name. I don't see why they wouldn't change a second name. I think Eludrin is as close as we're going to get to the name Eludra being in the show.
Mm-hmm.
I hate that. I really do hate that because Eludra is a really cool character.
Yeah, I like Ludra.
So I'll be interested to see what happens by the end of the season on that, and that's the end of what I have to say on that topic.
What do you guys think? Who do you guys have for actors in this episode? Who impressed you in this episode?
I'm going to say, go ahead.
I'm gonna start right off the bat with Neela Alia, who played Adelaus.
Yep, that's what I was going to say. That's what I was going to say. Yes.
Rock on.
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to say. Great. I'm glad we're of like
Sorry, I
mind,
stole it.
Glenn. No, it's perfect. That's perfect. I
She's
love it.
I think she's playing a couple of games there. I think the actress is acting on two different levels. You know, she's acting, and then her character is acting.
Yes.
And there's just slight hints to that. You know, that I couldn't actually like put my finger on anything in particular, saying yes, this is it, other than just how intently she was watching them while she was drinking.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just this overall gut feeling about the way she behaved in this episode, including this scene here with Elida, that
it's hard to believe that she's the same actress from last season because she's just such a good actress to show what range. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Go.
Who would you say, Sarah?
Let's go to Jen. We'll come back to me.
I have to. Sorry. I have to think this. I was literally going to say her. So I guess if I couldn't say her, I really like Fail. I have to think for a minute. Let me ponder, please. I apologize. I
do have an answer. I'll go ahead and I'll give my answer. The child actress that grew Randall Thor's squash and asked him if he was really the Karn.
Okay.
Oh,
got a picture for that.
That little girl stole my heart in about two minutes of screen time. Oh my goodness, what a talented little kid that girl is. Because to build rapport in that short cute kids and animals, get a little bit of a bonus because they're easy to like. They're easy for people to be sympathetic with. Oh, but she was just a cutie patootie. And her and Yosha's interaction in that one particular scene that's showing right now. Oh, I hope she's got a bright future ahead of her as an actress because she did really well.
How about you, Max? Who would you put?
I would say basically, how do I put it? Combination of the actors that play Natty and Matt in this scene.
Okay. The grown-up the girls.
No, Natty.
Oh, Natty. Oh, Natty. Okay. That's
Juliet Howland. Yeah.
Yes. Hopefully we'll see her in flashbacks again.
Man.
I like her work on the show.
Yeah, that hit hard. That hit hard.
Yeah. The practical effects work for the burned corpse of her, because I'm positive that was probably a practical effects. That probably wasn't the actress. That was probably a practical effects team thing. Oh, that was just hard.
Now, what does that look like? That almost looks like a horn.
It does.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's what a horn looks like. I thought horns were these weird looking things that he blew into.
Glenn!
Come on, get out of there.
That's what I thought a horn was, but that's a horn? Okay, good to know.
Glenn.
Sorry.
I appreciate you. No, I love it. I love
The
it.
milk. I like to think of it. My own brain as the milk jug of of Valair, the milk jug of
Mhm.
Valair, because it's
There we go.
got that big old mouthpiece and
It reminded me of this vase that we had for growing strawberries. At least that's what we grew in. It was strawberries, where it had like holes on the side, and the stuff grew out the sides as well. That's what that reminds me of.
If you didn't notice the text I had up here, there's a reason I have this here. Was Natty in
Yeah.
Matt's dream saying goodbye?
Oh,
That's hard.
no,
that maybe.
no, I don't. I would love to believe that. I think that's just Matt's wishful thinking in his dream.
He doesn't know yet.
Yeah, that's
Right.
why she's in his dream. So,
But I'm also looking at how she's turning away.
Yeah.
And then you have the ale belief about death and waking from the dream.
Right.
Yeah.
I also want to give a shout out to Shoray Agdishlu for playing Elida.
Yes, always.
I almost think that this is going to be another show that Shoray is kind of always. She's in the episode. She's like the best actor, like we always did with The Expanse. But the other person I really want to give props to is Abdul Salis as Eamon Valda.
Oh yeah,
That
he's
guy
always
is
evil and
just-
creepy.
Here's a
And I don't
question.
remember who said it on the puppet show tonight. Somebody over on the puppet show, Bill might be able to remember. Somebody said that Abdul Salis has this ability to frown and smile all at once, and it's just
Oh,
Here's a
Get a
question:
picture
is
of
his
him.
arm ever going to heal? His arm and shoulder seem like they're a permanent disability at this point. Will they ever heal?
Not before he gets killed. He'll get killed.
Did you notice his armor? It's a face.
Yes,
oh,
a man's face at that too.
Interesting. Interesting. No, I hadn't seen that. Huh.
It is a very disturbing looking face.
Yeah.
That's
It
interesting.
was Jansen. It was Jansen Lashley Haynes that said it over on the Way of the Leaf tonight. Tavern Talk with the puppets.
But yeah, that's kind of the grin you're talking about right there.
Interesting.
Yes, like that it's like you can't tell if he's smiling or frowning, and it's just like, please go away. Just please go away. He just creeps me out so much. And that tells you how good the actor is playing the part.
Oh yeah.
Love a good bad guy, and he does it well.
Yes.
Certainly
Villains
does.
are sometimes my favorite characters. Some of my favorite characters are villains.
So, Jen, now that you've had time to think, have you come up with a favorite?
I was gonna say, I already said
Abdul
Frank. No, I was
Salis.
gonna say Shoray. I was, I'm really gonna say I always enjoy men a lot. I don't think I've given men before in one of these. For all the, here's the thing. Here's why I say men, because they changed men so much from the books. And for her to make me still really, really like her and really love all the scenes that she's in, even if I haven't appreciated with how the story is going with the scenes that she's in, it says a lot about her. I really like her character. And I didn't like her so much in the very first season when she was just like the person showing Rand visions at the bar. I was just like kind of on her at that point. She's grown on me. So I think I'll probably say her for that.
If I hadn't said Shoray, if I hadn't listed Shoray, Kay Alexander was my other one on the list.
So,
but then I remembered Shoray, and I'm like, I gotta bump Kay down a level.
So I'm not keeping track of swearing on the show, but was Min's Blood and Ashes our first Blood and Ashes of the show?
I didn't even
Oh
hear
my
it.
god! It may be. It may be.
Because I know we've got a lot of other swearing that's not like in the books. It's like the real world, but that's our
Right.
first Blood and Ashes that I can recall hearing, unless it's been someplace else and I've missed it.
Here's
I
one
think
for you,
it
Jen.
might be-
What does it say? I can't see on my mobile. I apologize.
Oh, says just gonna quickly hide my fan art.
In quotation mark, fan art.
Well, considering
like
the
that.
fan art Jen's posted in for Baldur's Gate 3, you might want to hide some of that.
That's great. Okay.
And then
Did
Matt's
anybody have
looking
any-
at her.
Was there any favorite scenes that anybody particularly liked this episode?
Yeah.
What was yours, Jen?
Even though it was kind of intrusive, I really like how they did the sequence of Egwene as far as in a storytelling sense, going through everyone's dreams at the end, and seeing Nynaeve there back at the Two Rivers with her daughter really kind of struck a chord in me.
Yeah.
So
Right
I
in the
really like
feels.
that. I was like, oh man, that sucks. It shows that like she's still thinking about her in her dreams or whatever. It's kind of sad. It's really sad, you know.
One of the things
I-
I found really interesting in that scene is that Nynaeve is having this great moment with her daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that in the world of the dream, they're alone. But when she's instructing Elnor Jr. about how to listen to the wind, Nynaeve has this moment where she cocks her head and starts looking around, almost like she senses that Egwene is watching them. I found that very interesting. That there was a moment there where Nynaeve could almost tell that she was being watched, even though she was asleep, even though it was a dream, even though she's not trained as a dream walker. There was a half a moment there where she almost comes out of the dream enough to realize what's happening, what Egwene is doing. I thought that was a real fun, tiny little moment in the acting.
I think my favorite, it's not so much the scene, it's the scene, but mostly the beat at the end of the scene. Is right there at the beginning of the episode, that bit with Lan and Moiraine. After, she pretty much collapses from channeling with Choden Ball, and he holds her. No, it's not even this scene. It's the other scene where they're drinking. When is it they drink?
Okay, yeah.
Yes, because it's the drinking that is what I remember. Like that's at night, wasn't it?
It's a little after, yeah.
Yeah, so it's that scene. So it was a Lan and Moiraine scene, but it was the one where they're drinking, and I found myself enjoying that scene like every time I watched the episode. So
I like that
just really
even with the bond, he still managed to sneak up on her and kind of jump scare the audience a little bit, because he wasn't there and then he was there. So they haven't really given us a lot of Lan as Aragorn, Lan as the tracker, the expert.
Right.
So to have him manage to catch her unawares like that, when she can feel him through the bond, I thought was really a really good testament to his abilities as a warder. Tiny little thing. I liked it a lot.
Me too.
Well,
I just love the part where she like chokes on the drink, whatever it is.
This one? Yeah.
Well, like whatever it actually is in reality.
Yeah.
There is a scene or a couple of scenes that I in particular did not like. And it involves two actors that I typically like that I actually feel in this episode were the weak points.
Okay.
And to me, that's unfortunate because it should have been the most emotionally fraught scene in the episode. And that's everything between Alana and Maxim. They completely and utterly fell flat for me this entire episode. Their confrontation, where they're supposed to be in tears and she's yelling, "You're not enough." And just
it fell flat for me too, Glenn.
Okay. Thank you. I was worried that it was going to be the only one who it didn't work for.
No, it didn't work for me.
I will note that the show has this tell where the character will put their hand in their stomach when they feel some kind of emotion.
Really? I
This
didn't
is
notice that.
right after she took her bond off of Maxim.
Okay,
And
Glenn? I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Please continue, Max. I apologize. Let's go ahead. I'm sorry.
when she shut off the bond with Maxim, she immediately puts her hand on her stomach. Sorry, I had attached and removed it. She puts her hand on her stomach, so she is feeling something that she didn't realize she's still feeling. So she believes, like, Maxim is his grief, is the problem. So she's turning it off, but she still feels, upset about it and about something, So that hand on the stomach is your stomach is falling to the pit of your stomach,
Mm-hmm.
that kind of reaction.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a theme you're seeing throughout this episode, is when there's some kind of emotional turmoil that's going to the pit of your stomach, they put their hand on their stomach. We see this throughout this episode. And it's kind of like a tell. It is a tell throughout the series. When they actually feel some kind of emotion, they put their hand on their stomach.
Now, see, that's a tell. That's a tell, not what lets people follow Egwene or Moiraine on the horseback. That's not a tell. What you're talking about, that's a tell.
So I'm going to be the contrarian.
Stage tell.
Okay, what's up, Sarah?
I liked the scene. I liked it, and it worked for me. I felt like they really played up. I can't remember if it was, I don't think it was last episode. I think it was the episode before. They really played up the fact that Alana was being mysterious and not telling even Maxim why they were in the Two Rivers. So I thought it was a necessary reveal and a good reveal that she was in there because she wants to build an army. I think it's a far more legitimate reason, not to diss Robert Jordan because he's the OG, but it always bugged me that in the books that Varen and Alana went to the Two Rivers basically to kidnap a bunch of girls to get a bunch of power users for the tower because they realized that they had overlooked the Two Rivers for too long. So they went through to collect a bunch of girls to take to the tower. And that was ostensibly their reason for being there in the first place in the books. Child snatching, not my favorite thing.
Questionable.
So I'm glad that they changed it for the show. And I do think that for somebody that is a Green Sister wanting to build an army, I think is a lot more legitimate reason to be there. Now, all of that having been said, I can understand it's a lot of emotional back and forth between Warder and their Aes Sedai. It's an exploration of a poly relationship. What happens in a poly relationship when one person's die, and how do you grieve it, and how do you get over it? That while I thought it was well done for what it is, wasn't as interesting to me. I wouldn't say that I disliked it. I liked it quite a bit. I thought it was enjoyable. It just wasn't as interesting to me as other parts of this episode. But that doesn't mean that I didn't enjoy it and think it was well done. But I get your criticism.
On paper,
I get what you're saying.
On paper, the scene probably read great. I feel that in the actual production between the actors and the director, I'm not going to say it's specifically either or. It's a combination of the three, the two sides. But I think it's in the performance in the production of it is where the scene lost it for me. I think if I read it, you'd hand me the script and say, "Here, read this scene," I think this scene was great. I will say
that by contrast,
it's the acting.
So the one episode that they had, not the episode, the one scene that they had together earlier in the episode where she's sewing clothing and he's knocking bread on the table, talking about the baker board, that was a much more enjoyable scene for me. It was better lit. It was in daytime, so it was easier to see. As a setting, there were other things going on other than just woods at night. I think part of the reason that scene loses momentum is because it's a darkly lit scene
I can
at
see
night
that.
in the woods, which is tough to have an emotional discussion between two people in that setting. So, but I don't think that's anybody's fault. I think it had to take place where it was at the time that it did.
And I'm not
so.
saying the actors are bad actors. Every actor has a bad day, a bad take, a bad week. Other times they've been great. They've both been great. I really enjoy Napier's work at times, and Alana Priyanka has been just awesome as Alana for most of the show. It's just, this is the one time I've seen the two of them and been disappointed in the performance that we got out of them.
If anything, I would say it falls into like the Expanse issue of adding drama for drama's sake.
Yeah.
And
except in this case, there isn't really any drama added.
Well,
it's different drama than what was there.
Well, it is a drama added because he's basically threatening to leave the two rivers to go kill Leandrin.
Okay.
And basically abandon her there.
And it sets up the fight scene at the end of the episode.
And then he just magically comes back to save the day.
With the funny line, "Oh, well, how did you find me? Oh, well, you turned the bomb back on 5 arrows ago." It's a funny line, a good line, I guess. Yeah.
And speaking of which, I have this one. I put it on earlier, and Jen probably can't see it, but it's the picture of her with some arrows in her. And it says, "I feel like Ace Ventura." And there's a little picture of Ace Ventura with the two spears in his legs.
Darts is too much.
Yeah. I wish those had been short bows instead of crossbows. Then
listen,
the way those, the way
this is what I was going to say earlier
would make sense, but a crossbow that's as strong as a longbow.
Okay, Glenn, this is where I get to be pedantic. This is where I get to be you. I'm going to be you for a second, okay? And I had this conversation with somebody else. I was like, what? I was like, those are crossbow bolts at close range. I was like, okay, so adrenaline rush, could she have finished off all those white cloaks after the 5th bolt hit her? Yes. I think she definitely could have finished them off. Okay, you got to have somebody there who's going to heal the both of them right there, right that quickly, because you cannot, my friend, my brother in Christ, you cannot have 5 crossbow bolts hit you. I don't care. Like, after the fight is done and that adrenaline goes down and the shock goes down, you have to have healing immediately.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't think there's anybody around, because it beggars belief. And I never say that. I don't think I've ever used that phrase here on the show.
Speaking of which, here's the pincushion shot. And all of them except for one are in, arms and legs. The most dangerous one looks like it's, I want to say, like a lung shot.
That arm would be shattered.
Or at least like the scapula.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it's a through and through, so it looks like it went through the front shoulder and then probably hit the scapula on the inside and didn't come back out again.
Yeah.
Why did I even just say that? Where did my brain go that those words came out of my mouth? But that's what it looks like to me.
But she has, like, you can see, like, one bolt literally goes right through her arm.
Mm-hmm. And like I said, that her arm bone would be pieces being hit by. The show is treating crossbow bolts like arrows from short bows.
Yeah, I was like, that's a fucking crossbow bolt, friend.
Yeah. Those have got to be the weakest crossbows ever designed by humanity.
Yeah.
I'm like, do that little damage to her.
Good thing they're going to develop better crossbows later in the series.
If it doesn't pass through her, it would have knocked her on the ground.
I'm like,
she took one in the arm and it didn't even spin her around. I'm like, beggars belief, yes. But you know what? To be honest, it's not Wheel of Time only that pulls this stupidity when it comes
Yeah.
to archery.
No, that's not a will. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yes.
I think of
Most shows don't treat arrows and crossbow bolts with the respect they should have.
The level of
'cause-
respect. The level of
And
respect.
the other thing,
Here's a
I
comment
do
from
believe-
Rapunzel.
they used the word fire again in this episode. It was either this episode or last episode, referring to shoot orders non-lethal shots so he can play for all. Yeah, that's true.
The
But
anachronism of a world.
there's
where-
not really that much such a thing when it comes to crossbows.
Here's a
and,
question,
hitting
Glenn.
them
Could
that
be
many
tuned.
times.
Here's
They
a
could be
question.
tuned to be lighter
this a-
shots.
Is this a holdover from the Age of Legends when they did have firearms and they had shock lances and things like that that probably could shoot? So is it a linguistic holdover from a time when
Probably not, because
firearms existed?
one of the episodes this season, they actually use the word loose when ordering, when it comes to releasing an arrow on a bow or a crossbow. I can't remember what it was. One of the episodes this season, they used the word loose.
I think that
Twice
was in the
that I
trailer. It
know
might
of.
be upcoming.
Twice in the show I know of, they've said fire. Once was last season, once was this season. And that's one of my, I hate hearing archers told to fire.
One thing I say is, like, on the crossbow bolts, they could adjust the tension on those to not have as much force. Like, that is a possibility.
Like I said, weak. They were weak.
Yeah.
If you reduce the tension, that makes them the weak crossbows. So yeah.
Having been raised on cowboy shows where people get shot and then they're better in the next scene, or at most they have a neckerchief tied to it, and all those action movies from the 80s where people get blown up and then 2 scenes later they don't even have scratches anymore. I'm a little bit more willing to be forgiving of this in a TV show. If it was a book that was at length with a person with Robert Jordan's combat experience, I would be a little more surprised to see it and a little less forgiving in it. But in a TV show that's mostly meant to be rip-roaring fun, I'm willing to grant. It's like the concussions from like the concussion syndrome. Everybody gets a concussion and then they're better, which is not how concussions work. It's become one of my big gripes in TV that everybody gets a concussion. They get knocked in the head. They get knocked out so hard that they're unconscious for 6 hours, 12 hours, and then they wake up and they're fine. Yeah, that's not really how concussions
A lot
work.
of shows do that.
So
And
yeah,
if I was talking about them on a show, I'd bitch about that too. So
yeah.
on those shows, it's not, like I said, it's not just Wheel of Time that pulls this. Most shows that have most shows that are set in a period pre-gunpowder still freaking say fire when it comes to shooting your bow or your crossbow. And that just doesn't sit well.
So, like,
How
moving
many
on
scenes are
from
we through?
crossbow. Yeah, so moving on from crossbows, so we don't talk about that for another half hour. Who else hasn't talked about scenes yet?
I think everybody did.
No, I haven't.
I thought you did. Okay, go
I
ahead.
haven't talked anything about scenes. For me, like, favorite scenes, I already talked about the Matt scene was one of my favorites here.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned the dream sequence being your favorite, Jen.
Mm-hmm.
The very end, I had said I was going to talk about this later, and Lanfear's manipulation, right? On this scene where Egwene kind of walks forward and sees this, all the way back in season 1, does this spot look familiar?
Yeah.
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 The same place.
That's where they hung out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You would never catch me sitting on that rock.
Me neither.
So, that's Lanfear's manipulation of, Rand being on that rock,
Mm-hmm.
and she's in Egwene's spot.
Yeah.
Oh, tricky.
Both ways. Both in her spot with Rand on the rock and on his lap.
Got you.
And there's the hand again. on the stomach.
Yep. I'll be right back.
Mm.
I'm going to be watching for that now that you've pointed it out. I'm definitely going to be watching.
And that's like the end scene where, she does that mouth quivering scream.
Mm-hmm.
The other one I wanted to mention was the scene where they start eating the food and
Mm-hmm.
male waste. And I like the scene in a lot of different ways. One thing I was like, I'm not sure what is all on the platter except for the peas. I know it's sugar snap peas on the trays. I'm not sure what all the food is here.
Those
Someone had
slugs.
mentioned that.
Potatoes? Maybe? I don't know.
I'm not sure. I know that like some of the maybe it's a snake motif on some of the dishes, possibly.
Mm.
But I'm not really sure what some of this food is.
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to see if someone I know in South Africa could maybe identify some of this, but they weren't online. The answer.
Mm.
I know nothing about food, so I'm going to sound completely ignorant for a moment. My whole vibe here was Southwestern United States, like Chipotle-esque.
Tex-Mex?
Yeah, Tex-Mex kind of a vibe was
Okay.
what I was getting from all of this.
Because like
Okay.
I don't know what this little fruit thing or whatever vegetable in the bottom left corner is. Doesn't look familiar to me. What's in the plate here could be fried chicken. I don't know. But we have this scene here where Rand's eating with having Rourke and his wife just staring in each other's eyes.
I thought that it looked like Rand was eating a jalapeno, is what I thought that he was eating right there.
Oh,
Kinda, yeah.
No, I know what that's called, but I can't. I know what it is.
What is
Would
it?
you guys
What-
eat the
like,
bug?
what-
No, I can't. I know what that. It's like an jalapeno, but it's not. It's something else.
Would any of you eat that giant larva? That
I was getting.
No. No.
I bet it
So-
tastes like a little Debbie Swiss roll. I would totally eat that.
So I put this
I would
picture here.
consider it.
These two things are not the same food. She's holding what we thought was the bug, and he's holding the bug, but that's not the same bug. They're two different
In
things.
the other shot, it is.
Oh.
In the other shot, it is. I think it's just the way it looks in this picture with the lighting and the color. It's the same thing.
it's
but
square
been
in this
bitten
shot.
It's been bitten into, and I don't see a square shape.
Oh, on this screen, it's definitely square, and it's like filled with like a white custard almost.
Pudding.
You guys.
Cream filling.
And I have her caption of, if he eats that random bug that fell on the tray, he'll eat anything.
Did you guys? Okay, spoilers. somebody. I didn't realize this. The girl who's the Malkieri Aiel.
Mhm.
Does she have the same name as the girl that was the dark friend Aiel that Matt fell in love with in the books? Is it the same lady?
Yes.
Okay,
It's
so
the same
so we
name.
don't know what's going on with her, but she could be, if it follows the books, a dark friend. We don't know, and instead of having Matt face that betrayal of a dark friend Aiel and that being a shock, potentially it could be her being a
Yeah.
Malkieri Aiel dark friend, which would be a shock to Lan. Okay, all right, never mind. That's a segue. Let's continue on as we go. Okay.
Here I have Elaine. Elaine. I have a thing. She hopes Rand likes Elaine, and here Rand's just thinking about how to even share two wives, and he should
Yeah.
ask Matt about it because he'd know.
Yeah,
'Cause I'm pretty sure that's what Rand's thinking right now.
I would agree with that.
This is the part where Rand is eating with his left hand, and I have in her bubble that the stupid Wetlander is eating with his shitting hand,
Yeah.
because she schools him on he's eating with the wrong hand. And for those that don't know, in cultures in the Middle Eastern area, you're not supposed to eat with the hand you wipe your butt with.
Mm-hmm.
And you wipe your butt with your left hand.
Mm-hmm.
Here's Squash Girl.
Mm-hmm.
This is the picture I was trying to find. I grew the squash with the tears of my enemies.
Yeah. I believe it.
Yeah. And this is the scene where Moraine is looking at Lan and the other Malkyr lady, and she just has this look on her face. And she's like sick of those two already.
Here was my thought in that moment. Can she taste food through the bond? Did she have to taste the bug through the bond, and that's what drove her off?
That's a good question. In the thought bubble, put this is my I'm not jealous, you two are making me sick face.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was one of my favorite scenes with the end of the episode with, the whole dream sequence with the
I do actually like something better
Wait.
than the end of the dream sequence. It's the Windfinders seeing their magic on the boat.
I got that here.
I loved seeing that depicted so much.
And I liked the physical motions she was making to channel.
I love it
too.
Me
it made
too.
Sense.
It made sense.
I was in the live chat watching the puppets earlier tonight, and there was a person or two in there who had issues with the dancing, and I'm like,
I loved it.
It works.
Nah, it works for me. It
totally worked for me.
Mm-hmm.
I did purposely took pictures so we could see the jewelry here.
Yep.
I really loved
it.
It was
Me
great
too.
costuming.
Does anybody else get a serious Romani vibe off of them?
Slight.
I really did.
Influence, yeah.
A big part of this too was foreshadowing with Nynaeve's, block too.
No, I love that. Yes, Max, thank you for pointing that out. Yes.
Because this is really the big step towards where she's more able to channel, I'm gonna guess, next episode. Especially if she can maybe fend off Mohegan attack.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I really like two things in this sequence of scenes in this story arc. One was the fact that Nynaeve was seasick.
Yeah.
I love that they included that.
They kept that.
And I really liked in that scene that you were just showing a minute ago, the contrast between Elaine and Nynaeve about how they approach standing on the deck and how it also seems to affect their ability to channel. That Elaine is so free that she's running away from her responsibilities and she can channel, and Nynaeve, who is so
centered, grounded, rooted.
Yeah, and that's preventing her from doing that. And the one line about I can't remember the exact wording, but it's something about there's many different ways for women to be women, or something along those lines. It was such a great line. I can't remember it, I'm sorry to say. That's only because I want to do it justice, because it really was a great line. I've always believed that there's as many different ways to be a woman as there are women. And so to have that line in the show really struck a chord with me, because I think that it's important outside the show, an important sentiment outside the show, but it's also important within the world of the show when you start looking at all of these diverse groups that can all channel. We already have the Aiel, we already have the Windfinders, and they all, and the Aes Sedai, and they all approach channeling very differently.
Yeah.
And so it gives me hope that we may not get Nynaeve's block being resolved this season, but we're at least going to start on the journey towards resolving the block this season, which I think is important, because if I have to see one more scene where Nynaeve just stares at her hands helplessly, I'm going to be violent. I can't take.
She'll break her block early next season. That's my guess. It'll be early next season if it's not this season.
Well, I'm still hoping for later this season with a certain confrontation with a certain Forsaken. That
would make sense.
Whoa.
And I'm hoping. Oh, there's one other thing I want to discuss that's from the books that should have happened by now, like fireworks, and hasn't yet. And that is the B word, balefire.
Oh.
That, like fireworks, this had better come because it's integral to
Yeah.
the later. It's already been introduced in the books. It's important for later in the series.
Mhm.
I hope I say it every season. This is the season where it's got to start, just like fireworks. This is the season where it's got to start. And the fact that we don't have it yet is giving me agita. I'm getting the shakes waiting for it to happen because it needs to happen and it needs to be done well. So they have an opportunity. Let's see if it happens.
Mhm.
Let's see.
Good point.
What other scenes have we missed, Max?
I think we've covered quite a few.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I don't know if we necessarily have to cover every single one because, like, we do
No.
have this quick little one here. I was going to mention briefly. Rand and Egwene were in their tent talking. She's about to go off to the Wise Ones,
Mhm.
and he goes in for a kiss, and she kind of like backs away slightly. Then he actually gets a kiss, and she goes off.
Mhm.
And we get this brief moment where he has this, that going on. And so there were some comments about like he's treating like he's a little too playful, not solemn about what he just experienced from Rohirrim. That he's not struggling. But then we get this brief moment that people forget about.
Mhm.
There is an internal conflict that he's not really expressing in this brief moment here.
And that's something people need to understand is emotions are not always worn on your sleeve. People can be going through a really rough time and seem to be the most cheerful, happy person in the world when you're around them.
Mhm.
I've had friends who, and I'm good at watching for warning signs. I've had friends who've committed suicide that you would have had no clue even earlier that day that they were thinking about it because they seem to be in such a great mood. So just because Rand's being playful and laughing and whatever doesn't mean he's not dealing emotionally. And the people
Yeah.
who think that need to think again
Mhm.
because that's part of why we have such a problem in this country with mental health issues.
And literally
it's part of it, and it's
an epidemic.
And and even we're not really quite going to cover themes and whatnot. Like we have this going on. The literal next scene, wearing on her sleeves is, Moraine.
some people do.
Yep, and she is, with Lan and talking about her emotions and about death and all this and how she fears it. And that whole speech with Lan about
That's
living
my
the next
favorite
day.
scene right there.
I thought part of the reason I found that scene so impactful is because I remember the scene from season 1 where he says to her, "I shouldn't have drunk. You always get emotional when I drink." And so the fact that he's very deliberately drinking with her there is lent extra weight by that scene from the first season. And I really like that. I was thinking of that while they were sitting there drinking together.
Good throwback.
Something about those lines of his, "Is it tonight?" And she's confused. I mean, do you die tonight? Then we have tonight to drink with an old friend, and I'm just like, the way he talked her down off that, the edge of being so overwrought, it just beautifully done, I think.
And speaking of mental health
that
issues,
scene.
speaking of mental health issues, Glenn, Lan within the world of the show has dealt with a friend that committed suicide. Boy, we got dark on this episode talking about suicide, but yeah, that Lan has been through that. He was literally drinking with a friend to try and keep him from those thoughts, and got tricked by that friend, who then ended up committing suicide. So who is more going to be more sensitive to that than Lan, the kind of thoughts that she's having? So
yeah. it just I see a lot of mental health issues. I have bipolar disorder, so it's important to me, and
Yeah.
you can't always tell when I'm depressed. Matter of fact, if I'm really, really super happy, it's a good chance I'm actually quite depressed. And if I'm not super happy, if I just seem fine, I'm probably actually fine. But when I'm the happiest is sometimes when I'm actually the most depressed, or when I seem the happiest.
Egwene is clearly going through PTSD and everything else, and
Right.
then you got Lanfear,
Who's been egging on that PTSD.
I want to talk about one shot super briefly from that. You see you see Rand's back, and then you see Lanfear's hand. The positioning of the hand is thumbs down, but not like she's sitting on his lap and reaching back to cup the back of his head. Almost like she's got her back to his front and is reaching back over her shoulder. The fact that the hand is upside down and the thumb is facing down instead of up freaked me out. I was
it's her right hand.
Yeah.
Right hand is wrapped around, coming around the left side. I had to rewind it to look again. And she's doing this. And I'm like, how the heck?
It was such. I noticed that too, and I was like, "Ooh, that doesn't look right. That doesn't look natural." And
that was the director, I think.
And I was already freaked out before we went anywhere else in that scene because the hand was not in the position I would have expected it to be in. So just wanted to mention that really quickly. Yeah.
Yeah, it stood out to me too.
We have characters who are going through their own recovery of their traumas.
Yeah.
We have ones who are going to have stuff they don't even know is coming.
Oh, such a rough scene. That was rough, man.
You know what? I just gotta say, more guilt for Perrin to bear. He's he's a little bit of a wallower emotionally, where he lives.
Bit.
Yeah. So
the fun with Perrin is he doesn't quite realize what Fail wants.
Yeah.
And what Fail gets.
I mean, saying he's a little bit of a wallower is makes me think of when the sailmistress asked Nynaeve, "You don't like giving up control," and Elaine just starts laughing.
Yeah.
That was a great moment.
That was perfect reaction right there.
Yeah.
So I just think Perrin's just going to feel guilty about Natty's death, Matt's mom's death, for forever. He's going to hold it until Matt finds a way to forgive him. Which, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I almost forgot about this little thing I put here. When Egwene first goes into Tar, she finds mirrors. I thought that was interesting because of the first episode in the mirror. And the first thing she sees in the mirrors are the images of, the ghost people she sees in Tar.
I like seeing.
And then, of course, who does she find?
Yeah.
Her best friend.
And I did find that that one area interesting, like just the whole mirror thing. And what Lanfear did with the mirrors. And I wonder if that's a coincidence or there's some, mirror horror stuff going on with that.
That's a good catch. That's a good catch. I thought the pin in the candle, I thought that was a nifty addition. Not book accurate, but I thought that it played well, and I thought that it was a nice addition because it, they usually are.
It's a low impact change. It's a low impact addition to the story.
Yeah, and it certainly beats taking turns sleeping to wake each other up. And the costume change that you're showing right now, that was fun too.
That was great. I love that. Great catch, Max. Look at that.
One thing I've come to the conclusion of, I don't think I've seen bluer eyes than what Mullane has. Mullane has the most blue eyes I have ever seen in a person. I can't look away from them when she's, when they're lit well enough to see. They're just so blue.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm liking Elaine. I'm still upset we don't have a Mies, but
Yeah.
Bear Mies is all right. Bear
That-
Mies is working for me to an
I
extent.
like Bear a lot. I like Bear.
Bear Mies.
That got addressed in some of the interviews, and I don't think that was their choice. I think that the original plan was to have all three, Melanie, Bear, and Mies, like the books, and the executives told them, you've got to cut one, and they had already cast Bear. So I'm not sure why they didn't just change her name to a Mies and kept it as Bear. But I do think that it was not entirely of, that's one of these ones like Jen was talking about earlier, where we're not sure which ones are Rafe's choices and the writing team's choices and which ones are directives from the executives. I think this was a little mixture of both, that they had planned on 3, they ended up with 2, and they had to scramble at the last minute to make the best of a bad situation. So
The one thing that would have made me happy is just change the name.
yeah,
That's all they would have had to done. And I think most other fans that are at all upset, and I'm not really that upset. I'm not even. I understand characters need to be dropped, characters need to be folded in with others. I just think they should have gone with the name of Mies instead of the name Bear.
yeah,
Because she even looks like a Mies.
yeah. Yeah, I have a feeling that there's some behind the scenes things there that we're probably are never going to know about, like we don't know about Donal, where we'll know the general shape of it, but we won't know the details. That's my guess on that one.
Now, the one I want to know is what's up with Steve. They're never going to tell the answer to that.
No, that's something that they addressed recently too in the interviews, that they can't talk about it, that Rafe thinks it's hilarious and that there's an answer, but they can't talk about it. So again, it's probably something contractual with.
I'm
with
pretty
that.
sure he's the Dracar at this point.
Oh.
If you didn't know, she is Jaime Lannister's wife.
I found that out recently.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yep.
Wow.
And she's from Greenland.
Yep.
So if certain Orange Menace has his way, she'll be an American soon.
Let's see.
Oh, well, hopefully that will never happen.
Don't want to
and
don't want to inflict that upon her.
Well, technically, Greenland is already part of the Americas, so she's already American. She's just not a United States of the Americas American. So.
Right.
She was in the TV series Ragnarok.
Ah,
Ragnarok. I never watched that.
Yeah.
It's
That's
a Norwegian
Norse
show.
mythology.
Okay.
It's a Norwegian show.
I actually
On
knew that
Netflix.
about the lady who plays Bear. Before season 3 casting was announced, I had watched it's over on Bloomberg's channel. It's a short documentary series called An Optimist's Guide to the Planet with Nikolai Coster-Waldau. And in one of the episodes, he's home in Greenland where he lives with his wife, and we meet her on that. So when her casting was announced, I'm like, I know who that is. I know that face and that name. That's Jaime Lannister's wife.
Jaime Lannister's wife.
My question is he going to teach Rand how to fight one-handed?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
I'd still love to see Nikolai Coster-Waldau have a part in the show, but there's no role for him that I could think of. Nobody I can think of.
Gareth Bryn?
I could see that, maybe.
He's
the right age.
He's been name dropped. He's been name dropped a couple of times, so I think we're getting him. I just don't think we're getting him until probably not next season, probably the season after that. Holy cow, there's not a lot of seasons left if they're doing 8 seasons. So there's not a lot of room to start squeezing people in.
No.
Well, anybody else have anything they wanted to bring up? It's
think
We're
I'm
running
good.
real long, so
I just
this
want to
will be
say
one
it's
of the
been
longest
super
ones.
fun. I hope it's not running long because of me, because I'm kind of
No,
worried
No.
about Big Mouth.
it's
But
us. It's on us. We've had a lot to
It's
talk about,
literally Wheel of Time. That's what it is.
and a lot of it's me because I ramble and I go off on tangents
You're
and I
fine.
get distracted. So, thank you, Sarah, for coming on and joining us.
fun as
I
always.
missed chatting with you last year when you were
Yeah.
on, and I threw you in the deep end with these guys and had you doing 3 episodes in one night. So
Yeah.
and then I didn't even have the courage to show up. I had to have a migraine that night, so that was
Yeah.
good to be able to do this with you tonight. So thank you for coming on.
It's my
It's been a
pleasure, Glenn.
blast.
Jen,
Oh,
Max, my
Max.
pleasure.
Yep.
Thank you. It's always wonderful.
Thank you,
Yeah.
everybody in the chat, for watching. It's been great seeing the commentary down there.
I'm not
Woo.
ignoring
Please hit
chat.
that
I'm just not in it.
Please hit that like button, hit subscribe if you haven't, and leave some comments below as well about how I'm wrong on everything that I've complained about.
That's
I welcome the engagement, and put me in my place. I'd be happy to be challenged on that. So thanks for watching, you guys. Please come back next week as we discuss episode 6. I don't know the title offhand. Have a great night.
Yeah.
Do you know it?
No, they're releasing them late, so.
Okay.
Oh.
Have a great night, you guys. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to be awesome. See ya.